Hi, I'm Snez, personal trainer, healthy lifestyle coach, and your guide to feeling your best. This podcast is a segment from my weekly radio show, Wellbeing Wednesdays, broadcast live on 88.6 Plenty Valley FM. It's all about sharing real, practical tips to help you move more, eat better, and live healthier without the overwhelm. Let's dive in, shall we? So this next segment is all about changing the self-talk on hunger, your eating habits, and how you see yourself. Take the time to listen in because what I'm about to share might just change how you understand your body and give you a huge dose of self-compassion along the way. And this is all about understanding your unique body and rethinking your hunger and your willpower. And have you ever wondered why you seem hungrier than some of the others around you, maybe other family members or friends, or why you finish dinner and you're still ready for a snack, or why your sibling was curled up after having their meal feeling completely satisfied, or maybe they ate a lot less than you, or maybe you've spent years battling the voice in your head that said that you had no willpower, you were an emotional eater, you overate too much, and some of the nasty things that I hear people say that I can't even bring myself to repeat. But some of the nasty things that you've said to yourself about the quantities of food that you've eaten when comparing yourself to others, and feeling like, why am I always the one who wants seconds, or just felt a little bit like, why is everyone sort of coping with this quantity of food and I'm not? And I wanted to just hit the pause button on all of that self-talk and that noise and introduce an idea to you about understanding your body composition. And I'm not talking about understand how much body fat you have or about how heavy you are, and definitely not about willpower, but it's about what you're made up of, and specifically how much muscle you are carrying, how much water you are carrying. And these are going to tell us a lot about your unique hunger, your metabolism, and your energy needs. And especially if you are a person that carries a lot of muscle, even if you have a higher body fat, it doesn't matter. Even if you are currently not training at the gym or never have, but you kind of silently know that you are a stronger person. You know that lifting things was always easier for you, and you were always able to, carry heavier things and sort of do more with your body. As I said, even if you have carried the weight in the past, but what you will find is that if you are carrying a lot more muscle, your body will be burning a lot more energy at rest. It's like having a bigger engine that, of course, you're going to need more fuel because you're outputting more. And that's why you're hungrier more often. And trust me, it's a real thing because I see it in people a lot. I see the same conversation where people have this loads of muscle mass, and it's a shape. It's as a result of a number of different things, which I won't go into. But what we do know is that studies show that people with a higher muscle mass also have a higher basal metabolic rate, which is your resting metabolic rate, how many calories you're burning without even moving. So when you take that body with all of that muscle and you put that body through the day, through working, through exercising, through running around after kids, you're going to be burning a hell of a lot more than the person next to you. And what we do know is, though, this is a real plus. It's a real plus because when you do have more muscle mass, everything works better. Your metabolic health is a lot better. But what we also find is that when you do have a higher muscle mass, everything's calling out for energy, not just for calories. And your body's needing good nutrition and also a lot more water than the next person. So if you're not familiar with this, or if you've never been taught how to look after a body shape that carries a significant amount of muscle mass, or muscle mass that is over the average and normal range of the general population, then most likely you've probably been following all the other diet advice, which is eat less, cut your carbs out, skip meals, go on a fasting, like all of these things that when you are someone that carries a lot of muscle mass, it just doesn't work. Or you may be someone that grazes throughout the day and you're searching for that satisfaction that your body seems to crave. And if you're not giving yourself the right foods, if you're constantly giving yourself things like rice crackers and, those carbohydrate type of foods, you're just going to end up in a spiral of feeling out of control because you're not feeding your body what it actually does need. And I think this is really important to know, because when we start to understand what our bodies are made up of and what our bodies just need, we can start to listen to the communication from our bodies and then we'll know whether we're not eating enough or whether it is emotional eating or whether you're just hungry and you just haven't met your proper nutrient requirements for the amount of muscle mass that you're carrying. And I think it's really important to have this knowledge. Now, you're probably thinking, well, how do I know this? How do I find this out? And it's a pretty simple way to find out, and that is through a body composition scan. It's one of my favorite tools. It only takes a couple of minutes. And with these scans, now there's a variety of DEXA scans and there's the in-body scans, there's the eVault, there's so many different versions of these scans that you can find. But just looking around locally, you will definitely go onto the websites, you can find someone local that will do it. Some of the in-body scans and the eVault scans aren't that expensive for you to do, considering the amount of information that you are going to get from them. They just take a couple of minutes and they're going to show you how much muscle mass you have, how much fat mass, how much water you're actually carrying. And what I find is that when I go through these tests with members, they're just so amazed once they realise the amount of muscle mass they're actually carrying. And even if they're starting with training and don't really feel that strong in their bodies, so strength isn't always related to muscle mass. That's important to know. So you could be carrying a lot of muscle mass but not necessarily feel strong in your body because you don't feel that you're exercising, but that is still there. And once you can understand how much muscle mass you're carrying, and if high amounts of muscle mass is part of your equation, it can be a really good explanation for why you're feeling so hungry. And so then once you have that information, instead of criticizing yourself, you can actually learn what your body actually needs. And maybe you're not really a picker. Maybe you're a person just with a higher metabolism and your body is just asking for nourishment, especially not only just for carbohydrate, but it's asking for protein. It needs those minerals and those elements. It needs that water. And it definitely just doesn't need sugar or empty calories. And when we're comparing ourselves to our friends or family or what our media tells us we should be eating and doing, we forget that we're built quite differently. And our bodies are built with different quantities of water and muscle mass, and that has a direct impact on the type of choices and decisions we need to make for our food. And what's really interesting is a lot of the times I find that people with high amounts of muscle mass will also describe themselves as emotional eaters. And sure, sometimes food is absolutely the comfort. There's no denying that. It's not a space that I'm going to unpack today. But what if part of that emotional roller coaster was really just your body's way of telling you that it didn't have the nutrients, that it was hungry? And when hunger goes ignored or it's misunderstood, you can get that hangry feeling, that fuzzy-headed, that irritable feeling where it's harder to cope. It's harder to think clearly, and it's a lot harder to handle stress. And when your coping skills are down, it's so easy to reach for a snack, and then all of a sudden, there we have that self-fulfilling prophecy that we are emotional eaters, and that just starts the cycle of shame. Whereas the reality could be that when we understand our body composition, it just gives us clues about what we actually really need. And it may be more protein, it may be being more mindful around hydration, because muscle mass carries so much and requires so much water to function effectively. And maybe what you thought was emotional eating is just really unmet physiological hunger or sugar highs and lows as a result of not eating balanced meals throughout the day. So the invitation for you today is to, if you can, go and get yourself a body scan. I know a lot of people will cringe at the idea of that, but learn what you're actually made up of. Get off the scale. It's a number that's never going to give you accurate information. And learn instead, well, what are you composed of? Where does your weight come from? What's it made up of? And then let your nutrition and your wellness be guided by your unique body composition, not by comparison visually of what people are doing around you, or old advice of, cutting down calories and doing all of this stuff that just doesn't work for you. And when you know your muscle and your metabolism, you can feed yourself what you need and finally just letting go of that shame, that blaming yourself, feeling like you're not disciplined or you've got no willpower, and the idea that there's something wrong and there's something that you keep failing at. It's just that you are very much uniquely you, and you just need to understand what your body needs. And I'm such a huge advocate of understanding this, because it completely takes and it shifts the mindset from a place of feeling helpless to an empowered place of going, okay, right, this is why this is happening. And okay, so now I need to know what to do with this body shape. So next time that hunger hits, just pause and just listen into your body. And are you genuinely underfueled, thirsty, or needing some real food, some protein? And give yourself permission to eat in alignment with what your body needs, not punishing your body, not restricting, not yet restricting your intake because you feel visually you should be eating less. But work with confidence when you're making decisions around your body. And the thing is that you're not failing. You're hungry for a reason. And sometimes we just need to unpack some of those reasons so we can really start to feel better about ourselves. And then, more importantly, once we get beyond all of that, actually start to make some good progress with our wellness.
Thanks for joining me on this segment from Wellbeing Wednesdays, as heard live on 88.6 Plenty Valley FM. If you enjoyed this episode, share it with someone who might find it helpful, and subscribe so you never miss a show. Want to catch the live broadcast? Well, you can tune in Wednesdays from 12 till 2 p.m. on 88.6 Plenty Valley FM, or find my info on Wellbeing Wednesdays with Snez, the Facebook group. Take care, stay healthy, and remember, it's the little choices every day that create big changes. Talk soon.